So today we are having a bit of an unusual video. We're having a gameplay video, but it's gonna be also a new build at the same time. So I'm playing Cuchulainn in the jungle, and I've kind of realized that I haven't really been playing Cuchulainn in a long time, and I wanted to see if a specific new build works on him, and I'm commentating this video in post, so I will say that the build overall worked decently. It had some flaws, but so does every build. Anyways, the beginning of this game is actually not quite as I was hoping it would be. And there is a point where you can tell that I was considering to not record anymore. But then it turned around after roughly 6 minutes of the game, and it became a lot more interesting. So yeah, we're gonna go through this, and I'm actually really happy with this gameplay in particular because on Oceanic, it's often very hard to find somewhat fair and interesting games, or games with communication. And in this particular game, it actually worked out. It actually worked out. There was a lot of comms, and I wasn't pre-made with anyone. I don't know if anyone else is pre-made with anyone. But yeah, we're gonna look through that. I'm gonna commentate a little bit over the game. We're gonna talk about some other stuff as well. I know that I was originally intending to do the what you got pick, warrior pick says about you today. Unfortunately, I finished that so late that I had to change things up a little bit. So here we have a first engage on the Hunbats. The Hunbats actually went in. He was really greedy with the clear there. I'm not quite sure why he did that. So I figured I might just chase him down. Or at least bully him out enough to make him significantly lower for any later trades. And that worked out pretty well, because he hardly had to use his blink for that. And that also secured us the mid camps very easily. So yeah, time-wise it just didn't work out really with the video being uploaded at any time where anyone's awake except me, with the Australian times over here. So I figured I'm gonna do this in between, and then the what your warrior pick says about you, where I will actually talk about Cuchulainn as well. Like, that's why kind of how this idea came to be in the first place. So I was like, hang on, what's up with Cuchulainn these days? So that's where we are basically. We had a bit of an unfortunate engage on the Janus here. He was trying to leap on him and knock him up, but he missed that. Otherwise that could have been a kill there, but still took a decent amount of health from him that way, so it's fine either way. I'm, by the way, not leveling the 2 early on. I'm gonna do that later. I'm gonna do that at level 4, because I think there is a lot of benefit in having 2 points in the 1 early on, just for better clear and everything. Because you're not gonna use the 2 that much, which means inevitably that I'm gonna go into rage from a lot unless I throw abilities at the wall basically. But I'm absolutely fine with that, because I think there's not really any harm with using both forms at the start of the game, just for some extra clearing potential, some reduced cooldowns essentially. So yeah, that's what we're doing. Just gonna help clear a little bit in middle here. I was kind of trying to share the farm because the enemy Hunbats keeps rotating in the middle. Messed up a little bit there. I should have jumped over that. At the same time, there was a bit of a risk in that too. I beat here, even though I could have probably survived that, but I didn't want to run the risk of potentially getting caught out by the Hunbats there. I wasn't sure how much he had up, so I figured I'd rather beats just to be safe. Might be a bit overzealous at that point, but ended up being okay, because at that point I didn't need beats yet. So in terms of build, we can talk a little bit about that. So the item that I'm going to build first, we're going to finish first, are boots. Normally I would go warrior turbine, but what I think is interesting with Cuchulainn in particular is that he actually makes a lot of use of being able to stick to an enemy a little bit better, which you can do through having Talaria boots. And while I generally don't like Talaria boots that much anymore, I think on Cuchulainn in particular, they're very interesting, especially in combination with this too, because you really get a lot of chase potential out of that. And I wanted to try that, I wanted to run that. And then the first main damaging item is going to be Crusher. Pretty standard on Cuchulainn jungle, because it just is a ton of damage that you get because you have so many abilities that you can use. The same thing applies for Heartseeker as well at a later stage, depending on the team comp of course, but yeah, generally speaking, it's very nice. Here I kind of messed up a bit. I could have not transformed there, and it probably would have been for the better. At the same time, really not much of a loss, and not much going on yet. It's not like I have a hard time getting transforms here yet. Like, the problem with Cuchulainn jungle is never really getting transforms in the jungle. You get them pretty consistently but rather getting transforms once the jungle phase is over and you're more in a teamfight phase. So, not really a big deal yet. We had a bit of an unfortunate start, by the way, with Huyi's bounce. And that continued here as well. He didn't quite bounce properly on some of the camps. Probably could have cleared them a little bit quicker, but at the same time, that's always minor. And if you're not playing Huyi that much, it doesn't, like, it's not something that comes natural to you. I haven't played Huyi on this map that much compared to the old map, that even now I don't fully remember many of the bounces. I kind of have to check whenever I play him, so you gotta be a Huyi main for that one. Outside of that, there's something else I could mention, and that is that a fair bit will change regarding my channel in January. Because you may have noticed that at the moment I'm pumping out content like crazy. We're gonna look at this fight here first. So this is a fight that so far, you know, it's going pretty alright. I didn't need to beats for that ultimate there because it would have just wasted my beats really. So I see the opportunity to go in here even though he uses Aegis, and that's a huge mistake. Because while I get the knockup on him, Hunbatz was around the corner and I didn't check for that and we didn't have wards there. So it could have worked out maybe if the Hunbatz wasn't there. But I was really not like caring much about the game anymore because the Neith had been disconnected for so long. But what I didn't realize it was that at that time she had come back already. So from this point on, the game turns out to be a lot more interesting than beforehand, where it's basically just a farm run and a big mistake. So yeah, regarding my channel, what's gonna change? So you may have noticed that at the moment I'm working on a lot of content, doing a lot of big videos very, very quickly, which is honestly super exhausting. It's like, I'm in the process of fixing my sleep schedule. Luckily that's working out, but like for the majority of the month I've been sleeping at 7 or 8 in the morning, which is of course not how it should be, and basically spent most of December working and not doing much else. Recording gameplay, recording videos. Yeah, you get the idea. And part of the reason for that is that in January I'm going to leave my current network, which is, there are some complications with why I can't just do that at any point, because you basically go into a phase where by the way, I know that speed's down. I just want to check if like I can get vision on it. I don't want to check if I want to get vision on it so I can see it. And I rotate right into the team fight here. I know the Janus is coming over, which is very easy for me, so I can just knock him with the ultimate and then miss my 1, but I'm still going to get him with the leap anyways. And with the 2 here, activate the 2. Usually, you don't want to activate the 2 in a team fight because you can kind of lose the rage that you could utilize for chasing and everything, and for transforming again, but I knew that I was not gonna get enough rage to transform anyway, so I might as well use the 2. So what's gonna happen in December, in January, is I'm gonna leave my network and basically be, as far as I understand it, depending on how YouTube sees it, I might be demonetized for, well, up to all of January, which means I will actually try and make some content that maybe I usually wouldn't be able to make. Like, for example, like very, very short videos that just aren't something feasible within my regular schedule if I want to make enough to make a living of it. And also, I am going to start a Patreon. I didn't want to just do a Patreon on the grounds of, you know, I'm just doing a Patreon and you can give me more money. I always figured that if I do a Patreon, I want to have it have certain tiers, certain perks. So those of you who want to donate can get something back, get something in return. Hang on, got a quick gank here. So this particular gank, I knew I probably wouldn't have to use much because Heimdall had really not much of a way of getting away. I used the ult there, but I find Cocoon's ult to be a lot more disposable than many others, and I kept my beats again. I just took the damage, it was okay. So not really much of an issue with that. And free kill. That is because the Heimdall was pretty successful in lane and got a bit cocky, I would say, after he got that first tower and just decided he's gonna keep pushing. And you will see later in this game that the Heimdall is going to be the biggest problem. So yeah, regarding Patreon, I figured I wanted to do something where I have multiple tiers, where I can give you guys something back. And I have a few figured out now to the point where I can say, okay, that is something that I can do. And that is something that will allow me to spend some more time on bigger video projects, but also not have to stress as much about uploading basically every day. That play here was a bit unfortunate. We could have probably easily gotten a kill there, but the Freya banish just took him out right at the right moment for the Hunbats to rotate in. Classic Freya banish problem, really. And this was also unfortunate, me taking the Janus 2 there. And yeah. I'll talk about the tiers a little bit more, but if you have anything... I will talk about that in the future. But if you have anything that you would like to see as a Patreon tier, let me know. For example, like one thing that I definitely will include is some sort of voice message, that you can get a customized voice message, and definitely some credits in the video as well. And yeah, for those of you who are like members on YouTube, I would... Well, it's up to you what you do, but I would recommend opting towards Patreon instead, because it seems like that's a bit more of a consistent option, and I'd like to have a little bit outside of YouTube as well. I like to have a little bit that just goes beyond just, you know, just having everything bad on one place, because YouTube at the moment, especially when it comes to finances and everything, is a bit special. Alright. We've got the Hunbats rotating on the camp here to steal it, which is kind of funny. He used his leap as well, but then he used his ultimate, and I was like, okay, if you use the ult, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna ult you as well. And I'm getting the transform, I think. So we actually get 2 kills out of that, so that's very nice. Yeah, very not worth it for the Hunbats. I'm really not sure why he jumped in place. And I pinged the Pyro for them here. And they said that they're coming. Unfortunately, they took very long. And I was just like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll just, you know, use a lot of HP then. So barely get out, but we got the Pyro in return. Or we will get the Pyro. There, there it is. And yeah, it was worth it. And now we're getting towards the items that I want to build, because the items that I want to build are Pridwen, which arguably isn't the best item if you're only building one defense item in most situations, because you can get items that have significantly more defense for a similar price. And with most gods, I would say that's the better idea. But the reason I'm building Pridwen is not for the stats, or rather, the stat that I want is the cooldown reduction as well, but more the passive. I think it's really nice to have that extra damage shield. I'm not entirely sure how it overrides his own shield, because I know that certain shields don't really work together, like Nike shield and Pridwen shield don't seem to work. So that's something I want to see as well. That's something I want to test out. And that's why one of the items we're getting here is Pridwen. And the item we're getting afterwards is another one that interacts with the ultimate. And that is Arendite. So we're going to see some... Alright, we got Hunbats rotating here. But that was a pretty easy peel. Yeah, we're gonna have some double new item run, basically. Alright. At this point, I just want to get some more farm, just to get Pridwen as quickly as possible. But there is some fighting going on in the middle lane, so I kind of figured I have to rotate there just in case. And Barkos kind of overextended anyway, so it's like, might as well go for it. Might as well take the other farm ultimate quick and smack him. And that turned out to be worth it. We had the Hunbats coming in, which of course is always a bit of a problem, but his ultimate was more to zone us off. And he didn't really fully engage on anyone because I guess we were all a bit too high. So that was okay. He did then chase the Freya, but with the Capri and the Hui on them, I figured they should be fine. I want to have my buff. I'm a jungler. And then I rotated over to Heimdall because he was definitely the most problematic character to deal with, because he was keeping that pressure on right lane, and he was not easy enough for me to kill to like heavily go in on him in many situations. I did build beats because on one hand there's Hunbats, and On the other hand, there's Janos. In between those two, and there's Heimdall as well. So with those characters, when you're building Kukulkan primarily damage focused, even though I have a defensive item in there as well, I feel it's a bit too risky to just go into Blink right away. Which meant that my early was not as good as it could have been. I decided to rotate over to Duo here just in case the Neith will get out, but she didn't, so we can just get Oracles here. And after that, we can just go over to the Gold Fury. And that's like the nice thing with having a Freya and a Hou Yi as well, double ADC, that you can burn objectives so quickly. It's crazy. We actually had some pretty nice objective calls in this game overall, I'd say, so this one definitely was nice. Again, like with Kukulkan, the ultimate feels like so little of a loss that I figured I'd just pop it again. When it comes down to it, I still have my ult in the other form anyways. I tanked out here a little bit because I figured, you know, I have the shield anyways. Here, on the other hand, I get Tower Aggregate and I did not want it. But that was okay, because the tower was almost down. To finish the thought of the Patreon, I think I'm gonna launch that around January. So it'll help me bridge the time where I'm basically not making any money as well. And yeah, if you want to support me, feel free to do so. It's interesting from the perspective of how, I don't know, how YouTube and advertising and everything currently works. This one was funny because he actually tried to get out last second with a teleport. I think if he had tried it earlier, he would have had a chance because we didn't have that much CC. But he kind of messed it up for himself.
Attack fire giants.
And then we got a weird FG call from Khepri, which no one followed because it was really weird. Because it didn't really make sense, because they still had 4 people up, including a Janos with ultimate, including well, at least a Neith with her ultimate probably. So, yeah. I figure I'm just gonna rotate over there, just in case. Some more trouble. Got Barcos here. Might as well get some damage on him. He was pretty behind. I mean, of course he's support, but level 9, so he was pretty easy to farm. And the Neith was also very behind. Of course, for her it's partially because she had that disconnect. On the other hand, the Heimdall really offset that. Just basically being such a strong character in the moment in the first place. Gotta get a chase on Neith here and actually get her with a 2. Or rather, Khepri gets her, but that doesn't matter. And he's gonna try and guard here for the Janos, but he actually went the other way. And the classic lesson here is don't chase the Janos. Go for objective something instead. He's gonna get away somehow anyways. And Hou Yi made the right call. Called for fire. Figured we could do pyro first. In case not everyone's going over. I usually start pyro just because I don't trust everyone to go on fire right away, and my HP was too low to tank it anyways. And so we got a pretty free pyro there. And Janos got away for it, I guess. And that brought us to tier 2 of Arendelle, which meant that we would have quite a fair bit of cooldown reduction on Kukulkan, which made the ult even more spammable, which I already was spamming very much, or felt like I was spamming very much. So that was interesting. And what you can see is that we have like most of the map cleared out. We have most of the tier 1, like we have all of the tier 1 towers down, and we have a little bit of left lane down. But our vision is somewhat limited. We don't really have many wards. And we don't really have control, because we have you can already see Neith, who was pushing into left. We didn't have the vision up there where Freya went, which was definitely very risky on her end. And yeah, Hou Yi made the Fire Giant call. I don't think it was the best call, but on the other hand, I thought that Hou Yi was generally making good calls, so I figured I'd rather follow this call than, like, you know, leaving them stranded there. You can actually see that the Pridwen shield worked out there. I suppose the Pridwen shield only really becomes an issue if you transform right after ulting, which is relatively frequently the case. But most of the time you probably still get it, and you might even still get it in the ultimate. So I would say it's overall worth it. what's not worth it is losing a speed buff because someone dropped it. I was considering to trade the Heimdall here, but my Hoyo is already down. As you can see, I'm barely doing any damage to the Heimdall. I checked his build and he had Gladiator Shield as well as another physical defense item and Blackthorn Hammer. So being an assassin that's more going for squishies, that was definitely something I couldn't do much against. Especially not without Titan's Bane or something. And I didn't really want to build Titan's Bane because for the rest of the comp it didn't seem all that necessary. The Bakros build was a little bit janky anyways. And what I was considering was to go into Heartseeker. The downside here was that the majority of the enemy team didn't build that much health, but it's still kind of okay because you have, well, first of all you have the 2 which procs very easily. I think it should be proccing it still, and additionally it just does a lot of damage when you have so many abilities that you can proc it from, even against squishies. So here you can see we get a Pridwen proc again. Actually helps us survive a little bit, puts us in a pretty nice spot. This was super messed up because the reason why I died there was because of Heimdall's 2, which I didn't see. Because the animation is like kind of lackluster, but it's such a long cone. What I was trying to do was blink and ult, but I couldn't blink because I was in combat from Heimdall's 2. So yeah, I said it before, I think this ability is just absolutely insane in teamfights. And that was one of those situations where it really turned things around by preventing me, well, from doing my job essentially. And that actually, they ran us down a bit through that. Because, yeah, couldn't really do much against it, and Heimdall just mowed through a second ADC as well. So I figured it's time for Heartseeker, which should do a little bit of damage against Heimdall specifically because of his higher health, his health items, and again, against the rest of the team as well. And yeah, I actually enjoyed the build. I think it was, of course, a bit of an unusual build, but I actually really enjoyed the build, and I figured I'm just gonna pop in on here with the ultimate. Unlucky for him, the portal just went down. So that was a nice run. Turn around, but it's okay. Capri can have some kills anyways. And now what you can see every time is that I have 2 abilities that go on cooldown, two items that go on cooldown when I ult, but it's really not that long. It's really like, with how often you can use them, it's not really an issue, and with how frequently my ults up anyways. It all works very well together. I'm maxing the ult, by the way, because I really like the extra AoE damage in teamfights. It's just, if you get it on multiple people, it hits so heavy. I even maxed it before the 3. Only the 1 really takes priority. And here we got a pretty good charge on the Fire Giant. Pretty good attempt because the enemy team was completely unaware of this one. It's actually funny, I was trying to not transform and try to use my 2, and then I got knocked up right when it happened and I couldn't use my 2. But yeah, the Neith was on the right side, so it could have been prevented, but she just didn't know, and the rest of the team didn't know either. And we had a lot of wards around Fire Giant specifically, so that was very nice. That was a very easy buff for us there. My main goal is to just get enough Heartseeker farm here, or farm for Heartseeker. Yeah. See a little bit of an engage going on in the middle lane. Janus going around the corner, and I was considering to go in there, but then there was Janus, Bakros, and Hunbat, so I figured, maybe not. And instead, go through middle and try to get something there. And it looked kind of okay, and Freya got in there and got the ult off and had the Capri ult, and that was kind of all that I wanted out of it. I wanted to get out at that point. Bellona didn't. But it actually wasn't too bad because the enemies like lined up very nicely and I could just ult in. I think I just ended up hitting Heimdall, but no, I'm not sure. I can see some clicks there as well on Janus. Maybe hit both. Doesn't matter. Either way, Heimdall was my problem. And even though I couldn't do much against him specifically, just like doing anything to poke him down a little would have been nice. What was not nice was somebody dropped my speed buff again. And I tried to get out here. I tried to get out from the Hunbat's ult. I tried to juke the monkey, but I juked a little bit too late, and I'm not sure if he would have hit someone else to bounce it anyways, but yeah. Don't think I would have been able to get out there very well. But it actually was still okay. I mean, it was the Hunbat's ult down for that as well. Which is such an impactful ult in teamfights that taking that out makes such a difference. And at the end of the day, I would respawn earlier. And yeah, my bigger focus was still Heimdall. And Khepri chilling base apparently. So the unfortunate thing with Heartseeker, of course, is the massive cost. You really need to scrape that together. And it can be better to build something else first. In most situations, I probably would have. I think the item is generally a bit overrated, and especially in my build here, it wasn't perfect. I tried to see if I could just get just barely enough gold together, but it wasn't enough. Because, of course, Heartseeker works better when you have more power, and Heartseeker works better in tandem with Transcendence, because then you get the extra mana for the extra power, which gives you extra damage with, you know, Heartseeker as well. But at the same time, Cocoon with Transcendence is definitely possible, but I'm not a fan. I think most of the time you're better off building into more pen-focused items and utilizing the passive in other ways. But of course, I could have, instead of Arendite, I could have gone Transcendence. And then maybe, I don't even know, you could technically go Rangda's Maskclass item that probably should hit very, very hard as well. I like the a little bit more bruiser rebuild. I like the extra mobility as well in multiple ways from Travelers and from the ultimate from Arendite, meaning that I would have a lot of extra mobility and a lot of extra damage instances. I preferred that. But of course, each to their own, basically. I was trying to back out. The Khepri kind of stayed in, and I was a bit worried, but eventually he went out. And then I had Heartseeker, so that was the most important part. Got 2 wards, just waited a little bit in base so I get the second ward. And then I got a bunch of free farm. So there was a whole beautiful wave. You can see that beautiful cash flow on the side.
Okay.
This time I'm taking the speed buff. Finally getting it. I'm gonna take a drink here in between. Talking non-stop for 27 minutes. By the way, I'll see if I'm able to upload on Christmas. Maybe I prepare a video, otherwise I might not be. Or maybe a few days after Christmas, you know, just spending time with the fam. This was really nice, the Khepri pull allowed me to just get a really easy ult on the Hunbats here and get my transform off. Okay, I'm trying to see, I think my Pridwen already exploded. I was trying to get the Heimdall here, but I didn't get the stun. And the enemy, the rest of the team didn't want to go in, but they wanted to go FG instead, which was fine with me as well. Made things a lot easier. So you can see at this point the build is like a decent amount of power, 200 power, okay amount of pen, a good amount of CDR and a good amount of mobility and a lot of extra damage effects. Basically when I ult someone, they take damage from Crusher, they take damage from Heartseeker, and they also get the extra damage effect from Arendite on the next attack after, so a lot of extra things popping up on their heads, and yeah, I thought it was cool. And Neith actually pushed very nicely here, but unfortunate for her, people were backing. She did, however, almost get the Phoenix, and I was just trying to keep Heimdall busy a little bit up there until Neith is cleared, so I problem solved out. And I was considering to back, but then I figured, okay, they're both chasing Neith, and she seems to be getting away. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to run in the direction where she's probably going. Heimdall was behind me for a while, but whatever. He had a very tanky build, but he didn't have that much damage at that point anymore. I asked him to ping the Neith so I would know where she is, but probably didn't see that. But I found her anyways. And that's a free kill.
You have a new tutor.
That's a free kill. That was funny because usually it would be a waste of time to run all the way around there. In this particular case, it actually worked out. It was actually worth it. especially with Talaria, it was of course a bit easier as well. Also put me on almost for rage. I just realized that my speed was dropped again, so I just decided that I'm gonna keep my rage and go in, get purple, and yeah, got a very easy kill out of that. I ran back into the Hunbat's ult thinking I would not get procced by it again, essentially. Starting to get the Hunbat's there, but he blinked as well. That was a good trade though, like a blink for blink. I would say that in many situations, Hunbat's blink is more valuable. Try to get a kill on Heimdall here. Try to play it as safe as possible. But I couldn't get him because he eventually ulted away. Which, you know, was just ult down for that. That was also okay. So a lot of things here. A lot of things that I could force. Where it's not as much of an issue as with a normal assassin, in my opinion. When you have more abilities available in general, it's just less of a problem. And we decided to go straight for Titan. Could have gone for left Phoenix as well beforehand. I think that could have been a good call. But it actually worked out this way because they really had kind of given up anyways. They were not trying anymore, so yeah. That was that game. Actually, the stats after the game were a bit surprising, you'll see. Because under, like, in my initial impression, the most impactful player on my team that I personally like saw was the Hou Yi, but it actually turned out that at least stat-wise he was not the most impactful player, but at least he made very good calls anyways, and I would still say he was definitely a good player, but maybe not damage-wise not as impactful as expected. So you can see here is that damage-wise he was actually a fair bit behind Freya, fair bit behind me, but again, doesn't really matter. And you can see that my damage mitigated is significantly lower than that of any full tank here with 16,000, so far from impressive. But at the same time also not completely terrible considering it was, well, one defense item. I'm actually not sure if your own shields count into your damage mitigated. They might. That would obviously up that number a little bit. You can also see here that the Heimdall had a massive amount of damage mitigated because he had that early defense that definitely made a huge difference for him. And you can also see that their weakest link was definitely duo lane. Both players here really not that impactful, both not catching up in levels. That of course showed. Whereas I would say the Janos was playing pretty well and the Heimdall was definitely playing well, and the Hunbat's was just in an unfortunate situation quite often, and he got too greedy as well when he, for example, went into my jungle. But yeah, that was that game. I should have definitely warded more. That was a super low number of wards. I think our team was generally slacking on wards, even though we just like most people have wards at least, but still significantly low and even lower on the enemy team. So that was the biggest problem for both teams, really. But yeah, that was the gameplay. I hope you enjoyed that type of commentary. Let me know what you think about it. If I should talk present tense or past tense next time. I just realized that halfway through that it's kind of weird. And other than that, see you for the next one. Well, depending on where you are, later or tomorrow. And that's now definitely going to be what your warrior pick says about you, what your warrior says about you. Because I'm going to finish that up right now. And then I'll schedule it. And then you can see it later. With that, thank you guys very much for watching. If you're new to the channel, feel free to sub button and hit the bell. It helps me out. Other than that, see you for the next one tomorrow. Duke Sloth, out.